All right, buckle up because today we're diving deep into some seriously heavy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Aristotle's Nichomachean Ethics.
Whoa. Okay.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Ancient philosophy.
A little bit. Yeah.
How is that going to help me today?
Right.
But trust me on this one. This isn't just some boring old text, you know? It's actually like a blueprint for leveling up as a human being.
It's true. Aristotle, he was obsessed with figuring out, like, what makes a good life.
Yeah.
And not in some, like, airy-fairy theoretical way.
Yeah.
He wanted to know what we can do every day.
Exactly. And to get to the bottom of that, he starts with this big question. Like, what is the ultimate goal that we're all, like, striving for no matter what we do? Take a second to think about that. Like, what is it that you're working towards?
Yeah. It's a question worth asking yourself.
For sure. Well, Aristotle's answer is happiness.
Okay.
But not just like fleeting happiness.
Right.
You know? He's talking about deep, fulfilling, lasting happiness.
Yeah, like the real deal.
The real deal.
And what's interesting is he talks about what most people get wrong about happiness.
Oh, yeah.
They chase external things. Money, fame, possessions.
Thinking those are the ticket.
Like, that's the key. But he saw those as just tools.
Okay.
Not the treasure itself.
Not the end goal.
Yeah. For Aristotle, true happiness, it isn't something outside yourself.
Yeah.
It's about the activity of your soul.
Okay. Activity of your soul. What does that even mean?
So think of it like this. We all have this capacity for, like, reason and thought.
Sure.
Right? And we have desires and emotions.
Right.
And Aristotle thought that true happiness, it comes from using our reason, our intellect, to guide our actions and even our feelings.
Okay.
And he called this living in accordance with virtue.
So it's not just what we do, but how we do it.
Exactly. And you know what? He even uses this sports analogy
Okay.
to get this point across. So imagine the Olympics, right?
Okay.
It's not enough to just be strong or fast. You have to compete.
Right.
You have to strive for excellence.
You got to be in the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that striving, that's where the real satisfaction comes from.
It's so true. I love how he says that a truly happy person doesn't need any, quote, lucky ornament
Oh, yeah.
of extra pleasures.
That's a good one.
Like, the joy is built in.
It is. Living virtuously, it's not about denying yourself pleasure. It's about finding that, like, deeper joy
Yeah.
in doing things well.
Right. But, I mean, Aristotle wasn't naive, right?
No.
He knew that external factors do matter, too.
Yeah, of course.
Right. It's hard to be, like, generous if you're broke.
Exactly. He recognized that we need, like, some good fortune
Yeah.
to really flourish. It's tough to be brave when you're in constant danger.
Right. So it sounds like what he's saying is it's this, like, combo of internal excellence and having the right, like, external circumstances.
It is, but the focus is really on the internal. Even when bad things happen, a virtuous person can handle them better with more resilience and dignity.
They've got that inner strength.
They do.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to explore in this deep dive. It's about actively becoming a better person.
Yeah.
Day by day, choice by choice.
Love it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? Like, how do we become more virtuous in our everyday lives? Did Aristotle give us, like, any practical tips?
He did. And this is where his concept of the golden mean comes in.
The golden mean, yeah. I've heard of that. Can you remind me what that is?
Yeah, so it's the idea that every virtue exists, like, on a spectrum.
Okay.
With vices of excess and deficiency on either side.
Okay.
So take courage, for example.
Bravery. Yeah.
Right. So courage is the virtue.
Right.
But too much courage that becomes recklessness,
Okay.
which is a vice. And too little courage becomes cowardice, also a vice.
So it's about finding that sweet spot.
That balance.
Yeah.
And the key is that the mean it isn't fixed. It varies depending on, the individual in the situation.
Right. What's courageous for one person might be reckless for another.
Exactly. So there's no one-size-fits-all rule book.
No.
It's more like a compass guiding us towards, like, our personal best.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. Aristotle believed that developing virtue is a process of ongoing self-reflection and adjustment.
Yeah.
We need to pay attention to our actions, to our emotions, and figure out where we tend to go off balance.
So, like, if I tend to be impulsive, maybe I need to work on being more patient and controlled.
Exactly.
Or if I'm usually timid, maybe I need to push myself to be more assertive.
That's the idea. And the more we practice, the more we develop those, like, virtuous habits, the more natural and joyful they become. Like, it's like learning a musical instrument.
Yeah.
At first, it's, awkward, challenging.
Sure.
But with practice, it becomes a sort of like flow and delight.
It's true. And he actually specifically talks about practicing virtue.
He does.
Like, it's not just thinking about it. It's doing it.
Exactly. Aristotle, he believed that virtue, it's developed through action.
Okay.
Through repeatedly making the effort to act in accordance with reason, even when it's difficult.
So it's not enough to just read about ethics or listen to, a deep dive on it.
Right.
We got to actually apply it in our lives.
You got to do it. That's the key takeaway.
Yeah.
Aristotle's philosophy, it's a call to action.
Yeah.
It's about actively striving to become the best versions of ourselves, day by day, choice by choice. And this brings us back to happiness.
Right. Because ultimately, Aristotle believes that living virtuously, honing those skills of the soul, that is the most enjoyable way to live.
It is. He saw true happiness not as something we chase after,
Okay.
but as a byproduct of living well.
Yeah.
It's about finding joy in the pursuit of excellence itself.
Which is such a different way of thinking about happiness than what we're often taught.
Yeah.
Right? We're told it's about getting things, achieving goals, that next promotion.
Right, those external rewards. But Aristotle, he flips the script.
Yeah.
He's saying, focus on your character, on developing those inner qualities, and those external rewards, they'll often follow naturally.
Because you're more likely to succeed when you're operating from a place of integrity.
Exactly.
Wisdom, courage.
And even if those external rewards, they don't come, you'll still have the inner satisfaction of knowing you're living a life true to your values, a life of purpose and meaning.
It's about building that unshakable inner foundation.
Exactly. And that's powerful.
Yeah.
In a world that's constantly changing, full of uncertainty and challenges.
This is all incredibly inspiring, but I have to admit it feels a bit overwhelming too.
Sure.
Where do we even begin? How do we apply this to our modern lives?
It doesn't have to be overwhelming. Remember, for Aristotle, it's a marathon,
Not a sprint.
not a sprint. Start by choosing one area of your life where you want to be more virtuous.
Just one small step.
Just one. Let's say it's patience. Start by noticing when you're feeling impatient.
Okay. In traffic, in line at the grocery store with your kids.
Right.
And instead of reacting impulsively,
Mm-hmm.
take a deep breath. Try to see the situation from the other person's perspective.
So I'm actively practicing patience, flexing that muscle.
Yeah, you got it. And the more you do it, the stronger that muscle becomes.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, patience, it becomes more of a habit, a natural way of responding to the world.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like building any skill. You start with small, deliberate actions, and over time, it becomes more effortless, more ingrained in who you are.
And that's the beauty of Aristotle's approach. It's not about overnight transformations.
Right.
It's about gradual, sustainable growth.
Yeah.
It's about becoming more virtuous, more excellent
Yeah.
in all areas of our lives,
Yeah.
leading to that deeper, more fulfilling happiness that Aristotle talked about.
So, to wrap up this deep dive into Nichomachean ethics, what's the one thing we want our listeners to take away?
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway here is that true happiness isn't about what you have. It's about who you are.
It is.
It's about cultivating those inner qualities,
Yeah.
like courage, wisdom, generosity, justice, all those virtues that make us better human beings.
Those virtues. It's a journey, not a destination.
It is. We're all works in progress,
For sure.
always striving to become better versions of ourselves.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here? How can our listeners start applying Aristotle's wisdom to their own lives?
Well, I'd say start small. Think about one area where you want to grow.
Okay.
Maybe it's patience, maybe it's courage, honesty, and then find opportunities in your daily life to practice that virtue.
Like we were talking about with patience, being mindful in traffic or when you're feeling frustrated.
Exactly. Each time you choose to act in accordance with virtue, even when it's hard, you're strengthening that group of yourself.
Yeah.
You're becoming more aligned with your values.
Over time, those small choices add up.
They do. They add up to real, lasting change. Aristotle believed that the more we practice virtue, the more it becomes a part of who we are. And ultimately, that leads to a deeper, more fulfilling kind of happiness, the kind that comes from living a life true to ourselves.
So our challenge to you is this. What one area of your life will you start working on today? What would it look like to be more virtuous, more excellent in your everyday actions? Keep pondering that question. And until next time, keep diving deep.